Well, we had a little bit of a glitch there. Good morning. It's Thursday morning, and that means Lane County Wellness Corner is coming your way. Not sure, we're having some issues. Not sure what that is, but hopefully we'll get it figured out. Lane County Wellness Consortium has been formed exclusively to bring dedicated professionals from all fields of the wellness industry together with a common goal to increase and perpetuate opportunities to directly and indirectly serve Lane County, Oregon's community with qualified, innovative professionals dedicated to promoting healthy, centered mental health and physical lifestyles for an ever changing landscape of the human wellness field. And we do this weekly with our podcast, Lane County Wellness Corner, is a podcast where we interview and chat with local Lane County, Oregon wellness professionals. This 1 hour weekly show has several goals in mind, introducing you to local practitioners and organizations, learning about their specialties and services, and what types of clients they work with and serve, and most importantly, how long it takes to get an appointment. This is a critical aspect of the consortium. The demands on services have never been so high. In many cases, a client can't get the help they need when they need it. Tune in and learn what you may know about the wellness industry and Lane County, and get the latest updates to find the right professional and the organization that you may need. Today, our guest, again, well, we're having back our CEO and creator of the Lane County Wellness Consortium, MAx Fabry. Now semi retired, Max is continuing her work as a transition coach through her private practice, lifestyles, changes, support services, and helping people in a various stages of life transition, retirement, recovery, divorce, empty nesters, career changes, etc., to understand what they are experiencing and how to help clients gain control successfully moving through these life changing times. And now, if that's not enough, she started a new venture, Lane County Wellness Consortium, the CEO. Let's bring her on. Max, let's see. There you are. Oh,
Yeah.
Max, there you are.
Hi.
Welcome. I'm so glad you're here.
I'm glad I'm here today too. Thanks. Thanks for inviting me.
Yes. Yeah, we've got a full schedule. We just had a cancellation, so we're glad you're here. Thank you so much. And we're going to be talking a little bit about PTSD. Uh, Everybody knows what that means, but do they really? PTSD is an ever changing and evolving behavioral event that takes. Uh, it's not just warriors. It's not just war. PTSD is uh, sadly enough, uh, an ever changing function of life today. What is it about this that we don't know?
Well, people seem to use PTSD as like an overall type diagnosis. Uh, if somebody is very sad or that they will say they have PTSD. But one of the reasons that I'm really happy to be here today and talking about PTSD is because of our veterans. And, I try to do as much as I can to make life better for those that served. And right now, what's going on is, I guess we call it a war. Um, and
Yeah.
what I really want to talk about, PTSD will encompass things. It's trauma. It's trauma that we have, but we don't always know we have it because it gets so deep. And the trauma that we personally have really has to do with the stage of life that we experience that trauma in.
Mm,
And that's another conversation we can have at another time.
yeah.
But I particularly want to focus on our veterans, present and past, and what
Okay.
PTS is doing for them right now. So
Yeah.
can we have that conversation?
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting that you mentioned that. I remember as a young person living here in a college town in the 1960s. Uh, the Vietnam War was everywhere.
Conflict.
Every evening we saw, and sadly enough, this was the first major event that took place uh, over the television. And we would see death tolls every single day. We would see this. And as a young child, I I expected that I would be going off in the draft and headed uh, to war, and it was a sad state of affairs. And you're right. This is something that bridges every aspect of our life.
And I would just like to uh, bring your attention to when we do talk about Vietnam, because this is very pertinent to what's going on exactly today.
Mm,
Vietnam, even though it started in I believe it was 1955 and went to 1974, was never declared a war
correct.
officially. And uh, there is a difference between somebody being recruited and sent off to a war and being recruited and sent off to a non-war, which we refer to as a conflict.
Right.
It actually has it affects the economics of the veteran that is sent, as far as like for instance, if a young couple is in housing, veteran housing, I mean, uh,
Mm.
um,
Living on the base, living
yeah,
in veteran housing,
thank you.
right?
Um, and the husband or the wife is sent off to fight. Uh, they don't get extra money for housing off a base.
Hmm.
Uh, their retirements can be affected by it. There's a whole list of things financial that affects people fighting but not getting extra compensation for that. So my pet peeve is calling Vietnam a war. It was not.
Correct.
And it
That's
and
right.
what's happening right now in Iran is not a declared war. So
Right.
I just really want the public to hear me on that. It's just it sort of denies what what the people fighting are not getting.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
also, if you remember about Vietnam, um, the lack of dignity that really spurned, because we weren't really at war. We were in this conflict, and we kept thinking. Everybody kept thinking it was going to end tomorrow or next week or 2 weeks. It went from 55 to 74.
Yeah, it's a really strange environment we see. I was a young person. I graduated high school, and I actually had signed up for the draft when I was of legal age at 18, just as the conflict was coming to an end. But I had experienced it my whole childhood, and
Yes.
you know, it was uh, it was a time of uncertainty, and we're experiencing the same uncertainty right here, right now. Uh, this supposed conflict that we're experiencing now with the countries of Iran and how they're responding is incredibly similar to what we experienced in the 60s. Yeah, just sad state of affairs.
And you mentioning that basically what you mentioned about your childhood is can be put under PTSD
PTSD,
as it's
correct.
as it's
I'm
defined to
still I'm still having dreams, even as a 70-year-old gentleman. I'm still having dreams of that time period.
so you can only imagine what let's continue using Vietnam because we still have in Lane County there's almost 5,000 Vietnam veterans alone.
Hmm.
And then we still have up to there's a couple World War II and everything in between.
Right.
But can you imagine how they must be feeling as we're speaking? Can
Oh,
you can you imagine that first news that they saw where there were buildings being blown up?
oh, sure. The triggers that are brought upon these individuals are very real.
They're very real.
Yeah.
And as the one of the things that embedded uh, this type of mental illness, we will call it a mental illness, a mental disorder, um, was that uh, they would be fighting somewhere in Vietnam, and within 24 hours, when their time was up, and it was 13 months was the average stay in Vietnam. As
Right. A
soon as that,
1 year tour.
yep, as soon as
Yep.
that was up, within 24 hours, they were at their home eating dinner with their family.
Right.
24 hours going from killing people to normal life.
Which wasn't normal for uh, at any aspect. I remember a gentleman that I worked with. I had just left high school, and he just came home from in country, and it was actually quite a triggering event for me to see how much pain this man was in. We worked in the construction industry, and it was, uh, we I really didn't give much thought to it until this moment. As you're explaining this, he had come home and his family didn't know who he was because he had changed so much from his 1 year in country.
Well, think about how we raise our children in America. The American cultural way is to raise human beings that are kind and thoughtful, um, and so all their lives are raised that way. And then between usually 18 and 20,
Mm,
we send them off to something called boot camp. We put a gun in their or rifle in their hands and tell them to go kill people. And then they go and they do what they're supposed to do, but they come back within 24 hours. There was no debriefing, uh, the men that returned.
yeah.
So, even as I was putting my notes together, uh, something I was a young Vietnam wife. And now
Right.
I was
Yeah.
around 19 years old. I was still an American girl. But after that experience of being a military wife, um, I was no longer that American girl. And so when we talk about today, as we're talking about PTSD and the military and what's going on now, the men be the soldiers being um, I'm sorry, you know, um,
That's okay. That's okay.
uh,
Can
I, what's happening to me right now, Jed, what's actually happening,
It's triggering for you.
I have been triggered.
Yeah.
And
And I was going to ask you, can you talk a little bit more about your youth in that time frame? I mean, you were in your 20s, early 20s
I,
when this all took.
was, I just turned 18.
18. Okay, so you were still in your teens. Can
Yes.
can you talk a little bit about what, obviously you've had life experience. You've learned more about what PTSD means and how to treat that in your practice. But can you can you address a little bit about where you were at that time and how you may have how, how how you survived through that process?
Um, if I can make it all the way through the story, I will. Uh,
Okay.
I just really surprised myself just now,
Yeah.
um, by having uh, memories from the time that my husband was drafted, and it was actually. Did you know that there was really only 6 months of draft?
Yeah. Correct.
A lot of people don't know that. They think that
Right.
the draft was throughout the conflict. But that's not what happened. So from the time that my fiance was drafted uh, to till today, I still we still have we still have things happening around what happened in Vietnam,
Yeah.
and uh, it started. He went to boot camp in Camp Lejeune, North Carolina,
Hmm.
where all the Marine, that was the first time Marine people that came from the draft uh, were cited to go into the Marine Corps. That was the first
Right.
year of drafting Marines. So while he was there, he got very sick. They had to postpone him getting leave before being assigned.
Hmm.
So he was in the military hospital there for about a month. We never knew what was wrong with him uh, because they tell you you don't need to know.
Yeah.
Uh,
Right. You,
yeah,
you're on
so
a need to know basis.
right. So we were in Camp Pendleton, California, to get him acclimated to being a Marine, and he was a disbursement sergeant, which was a desk job because uh, he had medical problems before they even accepted him. They
Hmm.
accepted him with medical problems, but said we'll give you a desk job. And so he did go to Vietnam, and we had to fend for ourselves about where. By then, I'm sorry, I missed a huge part of this. Um,
Yeah.
uh, we had a son,
Yeah.
and
Right.
our son was born 3/4 brain damage, and the military told us. Uh, we found this out 3 months after he was born, and the military told us that we should put him in a home and get on with our lives.
Mm.
Uh, and then he went to Vietnam. While he was in Vietnam, he got sprayed with Agent Orange twice.
Mm. That's
And
very common herbicide that was used during the Vietnam War.
what a lot of people don't know is they had experimented with it in Western Oregon.
Oh, interesting. I did not know that.
Yes. Uh, when you have incidents like this, you find out everything you can about it.
Right, right, right. The well, that
Yeah.
defoliaging agent was extremely toxic
Oh,
and
it's
affected hundreds, if not thousands, of vets that
oh,
came home with.
in
Yeah,
hundreds of thousands.
yeah,
And you
right.
can still, if you drive over to the coast from Portland, you can actually see forests where I suspect the experiments happened,
Hmm.
uh, because the trees are still dead. And most of the veterans from Vietnam that were exposed to Agent Orange die by the time they're 60, between
Hmm.
60 and 65,
Yeah,
uh, earlier than that, too.
yeah. A
So,
lot of contributed deaths.
yeah. And so he came home from Vietnam. He was a totally changed human being.
Yeah,
I married one of the most sensitive, responsible, successful men that a young woman could marry.
sure.
So the future looked good for us
Right, right, right. Of course.
until he came home from Vietnam.
Yeah,
And he became very violent. Um, he it, our whole lives had changed.
yeah.
So I can't go through all of that. I don't think I would make it through. And again,
No, no, but
I
again, the
when
topic
people
is PTSD and how this affected at that time a very young couple that had no idea what was going on, and just the idea of how this had changed this man completely, changed his behavior, his attitude, his ideas, belief system, is very similar to how PTSD is affecting those of us today.
and that's why I'm putting this out there. We have the opportunity to talk about PTSD, and the point I really want to make here is uh, it's already affected my practice.
Right.
When my clients come in, I know whose husband was in Vietnam. I know whose father was in Vietnam.
Right.
Um, I know who was in Vietnam before they even tell me, because the the people today, as we're talking, are going to be affected every time they see something on TV
Yeah.
about what about people getting killed. Um, and we as Americans forget that we live in a different culture.
Yeah.
But what they have to prepare their family for what may happen, how they may be triggered. They have to be aware today of being triggered as they're watching the news, and where do they go and what's out there for them.
Yeah.
They
It's interesting that you say that because last night there was an event on television, and uh, I lasted about 30 seconds, and I had to turn it off because it was triggering me at this moment of uh, a bout of anger, frustration, uh, just un, unbelievable that we are in this place again. And it's just very traumatic, very traumatic.
When I was still a researcher, and this is back in the 90s, before I went into mental health, I worked on a research project where they were interviewing veterans of specifically Vietnam.
Hmm.
And and I never know what they're looking for when I do these assignments, so that I won't be biased in my questioning and
Yeah,
interviews.
right. Of
Uh,
course.
but I my territory was the hills and mountains around Lane County.
Oh,
And
interesting.
I interviewed I interviewed veterans that were living up there,
Mm-hmm.
probably still, probably
Yeah.
still are.
Sure. Oh,
And
sure.
uh, the reason they were living up there is because uh, everything from how they were treated when they returned home,
Yeah.
which wasn't good. That
It
wasn't a
wasn't
good
good.
part of our
That's correct.
history.
It was not good.
And it was distorted history. We can talk about that again some other time. But they were afraid of themselves. They were not being diagnosed with PTSD,
Correct.
um, and they were afraid of hurting their family and their friends. They were afraid of hurting themselves. That's why this is so important for the people of Lane County and everywhere to hear that uh, you have to become familiar with some of the signs of PTSD. And
So, what are those signs? What are some of what are some of those signs? What are some of the behaviors? What are some of the attributes of PTSD today?
yeah, of course, if somebody has an addiction problem of alcohol and drugs, that's going to be the most obvious to people,
Hmm.
uh, to their friends and family, even the general public. Will see that somebody's on uh, isn't uh, acting right. And so being aware, if you know that family members or your loved ones or um, do use, and it starts getting even more and more use, it increases.
Hmm.
That is going to be the most obvious sign to look for. Another obvious sign is going to be withdrawal, withdrawal from friends, from family,
Hmm.
a lot more quieter, um, a lot more pensive, um, violent outbursts. Um, I, uh, I have this story about a, a young man. Well, he was in his 30s, and when I started seeing him, from the very first moment I met him, he called his father by his first name.
Oh,
And
interesting.
I said on the second visit, I said, "Why do you refer to your dad by his name?" And he said, "Because he's such a horrible person. He was so abusive, and you couldn't even talk to him. He would just walk away from you." And he just went on and on. I could tell that was PTSD.
Hmm.
I
Yeah.
didn't want to assume that it was from any conflict or war that his father had been in. But
Hmm.
as he was leaving, uh, I said to him, "Was your dad in Vietnam?" And he said, "Yeah, he was." And he had left. And the next time I saw him, we talked about Vietnam, and that I was able to guess that because of how he went on and on about how cruel his dad was. And it
Hmm.
was all the signs. It was the outburst of temper when this guy was a child. From his dad would just lose it, as he would say. He would leave the family for days and not contact them. Total withdrawal. Um,
Yeah.
and his use of alcohol greatly increased. Uh, and so I said to this guy, again, he's in his early 30s, and I said, "Do you know anything about Vietnam?" And he said, "No," because we've stopped teaching history. Um,
Yeah. Yeah. It's correct.
so
Yeah. There's.
his homework that week was going to be, "I'd like you to learn everything you can about Vietnam, and I particularly want you to pay attention to when when the soldiers came back home." And when I saw him next, he said that he and his sister had spent all week doing his homework. They did it together. And after that, he never referred to his dad by his first name.
Interesting. Yeah. Yeah. Because uh, he had gained some knowledge about what happened during that time. It was a uh, yeah. All I can say is I'm feeling a little angst during this conversation myself, and it's bringing back. I remember sitting in my dad's truck. We were parked on one of the main streets in Eugene, and he had left me in the truck, and I remember hearing a name over the radio of uh, of those that had were not going to come home, and Paul Burgard was the name of a family friend who was a gunner on a chopper who didn't come home, and his name was flashed over the radio, and I remember sharing that with my dad when he walked back to the truck after being in the store, and I just those kind of things, those memories, they're never going to go away. They're
No.
especially to those of us that lived it. Uh, I I didn't live it in country, but I lived it in this country, listening to it every night, and it was a real tragedy.
And it is a real tragedy, and thank you for emphasizing that again, because we're not only talking directly about people that are serving right now or
Oh
the
yeah, right.
we're talking about at least 3 or 4 generations of PTSD for our whole culture. Our whole culture changed. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
and, PTSD has been around for forever. It goes back to the Civil War, but I
Oh,
did this
oh
history.
yes,
I'm a
most
history.
definitely.
Yeah, but during the Civil War, it was called either nostalgia or a soldier's heart. That's what.
Soldier's Heart.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Uh, in World War One, which was around 1910, it was called shell shock or war neurosis.
Hmm.
And then in World War II, it was battle fatigue, combat fatigue, or combat stress reaction.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Now, with Vietnam, uh, it was initially termed post Vietnam uh, fatigue syndrome, and where it was called combat stress.
Mm-hmm.
And they didn't even start treating Vietnam veterans until 1980, when the term PTSD started being used. Uh, the research, uh, the research was just coming to light with all of the symptoms of what was happening. And initially, with Vietnam, how they treated it was with groups similar to the Alcoholics Anonymous,
Mm.
uh,
Right.
which sort of slowed down the research because um, AA, can't be researched.
Oh,
And
interesting.
a wealth of information if it could
Sure.
be researched even today. Uh,
Right.
and so when they gathered all of the data up, which was very minimal data, they did come up with the patterns and uh, uh, a way to start treating it. Um, but that was
So,
not until 1980.
what what approaches do we use as a mental health professional to help? this population?
We have a
Because
lot.
it's a multi-dimensional, correct? I mean, we're looking at not just those that are affected directly by the event, but like myself, who experienced watching it on TV, watching hearing it on the radio, having this conversation, knew that because it was continuous during my childhood. So, what approaches do we use today to help this population?
Well, because we were able to gather all that data post Vietnam, we have many different ways to treat PTSD, and of
Mm,
course, there's many variables. First of all, have you been in the military, or uh, we have been able to extend that now to non-military people, all of us in general,
mm-hmm,
to have you experienced a trauma? And if somebody remembers a trauma like you just did,
mm-hmm,
then they would pick one of the modalities that is compatible with the person that's experiencing the trauma. So we have, I made a list of them, and uh, we have cognitive behavioral therapy is one that's used,
yes, yes, very
dialectical
popular.
behavioral therapy, and called DBT, and acceptance and commitment therapy also, besides the things like EMDR. And most recently, we have a new one called brain spotting.
Oh, interesting. Yeah,
Uh,
I've
that
heard of that.
that is the newest of, therapy that's being used, and it started about 2003. And we
Mm-hmm,
here in Lane County are really, it's a licensed therapy. You have to get special certification for it.
mm-hmm,
And
mm-hmm.
we here in Lane County have the majority of people in all of Oregon that are certified to do this work. As a matter of fact, Jed, one of our board members on Lane County Wellness Consortium
Mm-hmm.
is one of those people, and that's Risa Humphrey. Uh,
Oh, she's
she,
certified in that therapy.
yes, and yeah, and I have I have sent her quite a few clients, and the feedback that I get from them is it takes time. It's not like it's one thing,
Yeah,
because
sure, of course.
what happens is uh, your um, your trauma happened uh, in like it was about 10 to 12 years old, was it?
Right. Yeah,
Yeah. And in our
or
state.
even younger than that, actually. Oh, I remember 4, 5, 6, 7 years old still seeing it on the news. So, yeah, started earlier.
And the earlier it starts, the less it gets pushed back in your brain, but our brain retains everything.
Yeah.
So, uh, Dr. Grant, who developed this approach, believed that he noticed that if you look at people's eyes, it changes and how they're moving.
Hmm.
It changes how the brain loosens information. Um,
Interesting.
and so, what okay, so let's say this is the brain, okay,
Okay.
and okay, it has all these little compartments of different portions of our life, okay.
Right.
So when he starts working, when they start working on this uh, brain stopping, it's um, they'll first get a trauma. Say this is your nearest trauma. This finger here, okay.
Hmm.
So once they break through that trauma and work through that, they have a good chance of coming across the other trauma. We're and so they go through. it's like you have to almost burst this trauma. And
It's
so
almost
the,
historical. So you
yeah,
start at the very first one
the
and move
earliest.
through the earliest ones. Yes. Okay.
And until you get to the main one. And when you get to the main trauma, that's when you have reactions, sort of like you and I just had with our early memories.
Sure.
Then that would be the one to continue working on and healing from. Does that make sense? Maybe you need to invite.
Yes, most definitely.
Maybe you need to invite Risa to talk about brainstorming.
That sounds great. She's on. She's not on the schedule. I've gotten some response from her, but she's not on the schedule. Although we do have, I will say, let me
Ron Unger is going to
quickly.
be on your schedule. He's
Ron is next week. Ron is up next week. He's the uh, hearing voices. He's the schizophrenia specialist here locally in town, and he will be here next week. But Elaine Walters from
the trauma center. Yeah.
the
The pro-
trauma, yeah, the trauma center here locally in Eugene, she's on the schedule for the 23rd of April. So we have uh, yeah, we're filling the bill for this particular arena of mental health issues.
and I wonder if I could ask you when you have those interviews, um, if you might check in with them about what's happening with the veterans here in Lane County, and
Oh
and
yes, most definitely.
you know the what people need to do when they see a love or see a loved one experiencing this is the VA clinic over by Costco, Chad Drive, is available. They can go online and just put in Lane County Veterans Services and find out what's available. Um,
Hmm.
encourage their loved one to go seek treatment. And a suggestion, by the way, for younger people like teenagers and even younger than that, if you suggest to them going to a life coach, that seems to be a way to get kids to want to go uh, to counseling. Uh, at one point, I ended up with like 12 teenagers uh, because number one, my office was by a middle school, and the first child I had that came went back and told all her classmates that she had a life coach, and and
Right,
all these kids wanted to have a life coach. Uh, yeah,
right.
so that
Yeah. Well, you know what? Back in last month on the 5th of March, we interviewed Dan Buchwald,
yeah,
who is
yeah,
the yeah, right, right. He's the one of I don't, you know what? I don't remember what his actual title was, but at one point he was the director at the uh, Veterans Legacy of Oregon, which is currently being housed out at the old Lane County Correctional Work Camp out past Lorraine on Siuslaw River Road. And Dan was gracious enough to come on to our show. That was back in March.
yeah,
So if you want to know a little more about it, you can go back to our uh, YouTube channel there. Let me put that up.
yeah.
Our YouTube channel, and you can see his. Uh, there it is. Anyway, our YouTube channel, and you can pick up his show. It was awesome. It really was.
And
Yeah.
I was gonna mention Camp Alma as a resource. because they can house unhoused veterans out there. You
Right.
know, food and shelter. It's not. It's not. Uh, they're not going to feel like they're back in the military. These guys,
Oh no, on the
there's a
contrary.
counselor out there. They are able to sit and talk with each other. They need volunteers out there. So this would be again in time a good place to put people's free time is
Yeah.
contact Dan and see what's available.
Let me pull up the address here locally. Veterans. Well, I'm going to put this on copy. I'm going to put this on the screen. Oh, yeah, the ticker. There we go. The Veterans Legacy
Yeah,
Oregon.org. Anyway,
it's
it's out. Yeah.
yeah.
So you can go to that website, uh, Veterans Legacy Oregon.org, and that's Camp Alma up the Sayusla River.
And I would like to go back and finish where the story that I was telling about. Okay,
Sure. Yeah,
uh,
yeah.
and I want to do this because I just really want people to remember that when we have veterans, when we have active duty personnel in a foreign country serving our country, whether we agree with what's happening or not, we have to always support our
Yes.
military. Uh,
Yes.
it's why we're talking about PTS today because of that piece of history.
Yeah.
Uh, and uh, to finish up, what has happened since Vietnam ended is we they finally started treating for PTSD about 1980. So
Yeah.
that meant people coming back from Vietnam were not treated for their
That's
trauma
correct.
until
Right.
1980. Eventually, it just recently, uh, I think it was about just within the past 10 years, uh, a lawsuit has been won to compensate uh, the people that were in boot camp. As it turns out, uh, my husband's illness was due to water poisoning,
Oh,
and
yes. Right. Yeah.
it had been going on for decades. And so, if any person listening had anybody in the military that went to Camp Lejeune for training, they might want to get in touch with the VA and uh, file, be part of the class action.
Yeah.
And
That's a quite a large lawsuit that has just come to light. Yeah. That's correct.
and finally, um, there the veterans are getting compensated for Agent Orange, and it's not only the veterans; it's anybody, both for the water issue and the Agent Orange issue. It's not limited to just people in the military because there's civilian workers. There's so it's just anybody that was in the environment for 30 days or more.
So
Um,
where do they get in contact?
uh,
How do they approach this for those that have that are listening that hear this that may not know? Where do they go in Lane County?
to the Lane County Veteran Services Program.
Okay.
And uh, when I was contacted about the water situation, it was a class action claim. And so
Mm-hmm.
I never knew that it was happening, but they had a list. Remember, I mentioned that the doctor that diagnosed my son said,
Yeah.
put him at
Right.
home, get on with your life. Um, that day that I was sitting in front of him and he had his file in front of him, looking at it, I had an instinct something was wrong.
Hmm.
Who who would say that to a young mother?
Right.
You know, and he slammed shut the file. Uh, I'm sorry, I'm doing it again. So
It's all right.
this is what PTS looks like.
It's
Uh,
exactly what it looks like. It pops up in our conversation every moment of every day. And Max, I can't begin to thank you for being vulnerable, opening yourself up, and having this conversation. That is a uh, it's an opportunity. Number one, for healing. Number two, for letting others know that there's a solution and that we don't have to live in the dark shadows of PTSD. And many of us, myself included, I've never been actually in the military, but I experienced those events as an impressionable young child. I saw it every night on the news. I saw it on the radio. I had friends that had come home from in country, and it was a tragedy, and it still is to this day because I still sleep with it. I still wake up to it.
and I want to answer the question that people's going to ask me after this, and
Yeah.
that's, well, our dads went through a war. You
Yep.
know, there was wars before Vietnam, but um, my dad was wounded in World War II. And so this finding this information out really helped me a lot. And that's when when the guys were coming back, the soldiers were coming back from World War II. This is a little known fact. Um, the government paid to have TV programs made
Hmm.
to re-socialize uh, our culture. They brought people for the first time during World War II. For the first time, women were working in factories.
Right.
Unheard of
Right.
back.
Right. Right.
They had to get them back in the kitchen. And how do you think they did that? Can you remember some shows from that period of time, like the 60s?
Yeah.
Ozzie and Harriet.
Yes.
I wore pearls.
Yeah.
Uh, 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 can you think of one
Oh
from your
well,
childhood?
my three sons.
My Three Sons.
My
Yeah.
three sons pops up. As a yeah. There were several, right?
Yeah.
Ozzy and Harriet was one. Oh, sure. Dennis the Menace, for that matter.
Yeah. So they're not doing that this
Yeah.
time. What
No.
they're doing is showing more and more and more news.
Yeah.
What they're showing is people being blown up. They're showing children walking through a war zone.
Yeah. Yeah. In fact, I actually had the unfortunate privilege of watching a brief video this morning of it. Actually, I highly recommend that you go to YouTube and you type in the search for the human. The human is yeah, I'm going to do it right now. The human is a video. There's two versions of it. One is the musical version called The Human, but the other version is the uh, uh, unabridged, unedited version of of the video, and I do not know who made it, but it's called The Human, and it's 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 challenging. I will say it's challenging to listen uh, in multiple languages. Obviously, there's uh, you know closed caption, but the darkness and the trauma that this whoever 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 created this video, this show, this movie uh, deserves quite a lot of acclimates, I would say. It's just an amazing video called The Human, and I would highly recommend everyone watching it. We're
Thanks.
coming to an end in of our show. Any last parting words, Max?
I do have. We started this with why are we talking about this today? And I chose to talk about this because I want what's happening today. I want people in Lane County to know that we have a wonderful community of wellness practitioners.
Mm,
So encourage your relatives, your friends, if they're having any experience like you and I had today, to get in touch with a qualified practitioner. And I also we have a habit of putting people in jail that have uh, trauma moments in public. Let's not put them in jail. Let's encourage treatment, not jail.
I
And
agree.
also, uh, let's not judge. Let's encourage compassion versus judgment. And finally, you may not agree with I've said this before, may not agree with what's going on, but we have to support our troops. And
I
most of
agree.
all, let's not repeat history. Thanks so much for
Isn't
having me
that?
on.
Oh, thank you, Max. Isn't that so true that we tend we tend to forget. I don't know why that is, but we seem to forget.
Let's not.
And the sad part about it is that we repeat exactly where we've come from, and it's not okay.
Let's be a united community and work together to support everyone.
I agree. Love
Thank
you,
you, Jed.
dear. And let's close this show. Thank you so much, Max, for being here, and uh, I I deeply I thank you so much for your energy and your friendship and your love, and just thank you.